We've just finished our induction to Wayra these last 3 days, and yeah, there was some really interesting topics brought up. I think one for me that was very interesting was the talk that was given on investment. There was a comment the guy made on the central banks printing money, and essentially that's why we're seeing an increase in investment across technology companies over the last 10 years. And that makes sense since the central banks printed about £1 trillion since 2008, when we had the recession, the crash. One thing that let me down about the inductions to Wayra was I feel as though time frames were only on about 10-year long, so 10-year time spans. That let me down a bit because, you have in the room potentially people that can potentially change the world with their ideas, the technology they're working on. And the effects of what they're doing should, in my view, stretch far further than 10 years. The idea I wanted to put in people's heads, and I had a few conversations with various people about this topic, the idea is that, we've lost, or should I say buried, the cathedral builders. The guys who, the drawings for cathedrals, would never live long enough to see those cathedrals stand because they're 100-year plus projects. And that takes real visionary foresight. And today we've buried or lost that mentality. And I feel as though, it was definitely apparent when we were sat there in the room with all the other startups that 10-year timeframes are the most we're really going to be thinking about at the moment. So yeah, Desi, what do you think about that as an overall idea?
I think you have a fair argument. What I noticed is that a lot of people go into business and they have these incredible ideas for products and for solutions for solving particular problems, and many of them are thinking with their own selfish wishes ahead of the problem that they're trying to solve. They're looking to exit fairly soon.
And that's what capitalism...
Yeah.
That's the time cycles. That's the time cycles that capitalism has brought about. This mentality of, well, either you do an exit or an IPO, and that's got to be within the 10 years. I'm all for getting the returns and bringing about economic prosperity, but there has to be something wrong if the cycles are... Well, there has to be something that's fundamentally not right if the cycles are just 10-year long periods, in my view. But who knows?
Well, yeah, for me, I get what you're saying, and yeah, it's a forward thing, but there's a few things that, for me, are good points to raise here. So, 10 years, that's a long time. Like, we've only been on the earth for two lots of 10 years and a bit. When you actually think about it, like, you're going on 10 years, it's not enough, but what kind of things are you talking about that couldn't actually be done in 10 years? Because if you're on it for 10 years, you could get a lot done. That's my first kind of point, and I'll pass it back to you in a second. And I think it's purely selfish as well. Like, why would you... A lot of the kind of cathedral building and stuff you're talking about, kings and stuff like ordered them to do it. They believed in this grander vision. Although when you look at it, a lot of kings didn't have a lot of visions once they got to like the top, and some of them they seen it as like an honor and stuff like that. But these days there's not necessarily an honor in doing something for longer than that. And my final point is that's the VC world. 10 years is... Well, that's the game they play, but there's other places, and yeah, they're rare or maybe hard to come by, that can appreciate a 10-year plus vision. Maybe we just don't know any of those people, or we're not quite ready for that stage yet. That's only one kind of like drop in the ocean, for me at least. and hopefully, we'll maybe become some kind of trendsetter in that, like the long-term vision rather than the 10-year vision. I think it's Jeff Bezos who says, 20-year vision or whatever, and he's maybe the only vaguely successful person who talks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I mean,
You have to define success.
He himself's not vaguely successful, but I'm just consider that pool of people that people consider successful. Not many of them talk about 10-year plus, and if they do, it's like.
But that's fundamentally because the system rewards a certain type of mentality or behavior, and that's on a system level. So I'm not talking about making a bet on the individuals as such, but more a bet on a wider vision that these funds need to push for, or government organizations, or other large institutes. So overall, like, what do they want to strive for that pushes like 20, 30, 40 years plus? Got the 2030 vision.
Scottish Government initiative.
Yeah.
I don't know. They have so many strategies that I really have lost count.
Also, it's tricky to know whether these organizations are the right ones to achieve these things. But the point I'm trying to get across here is there should be a consensus, at least, on a few topics where we collectively want to push forwards toward. And there should be resources and initiatives, institutes that are there to implement on those things. And that's really what I'm trying to push for here. And if SageCity kind of plays part in this idea of long-termism, that would be an amazing thing.
So here's an interesting question I kind of want to ask both of you. The reason why VCs, all these other people, are stumbling around looking for money, trying to make money, things like that, is because their needs in some form aren't being fulfilled. And if we continue to build systems that provide people with their needs, people will be able to look more long term. So maybe we have to bring about the change that we want ourselves,
100%. And that's, in my view, why I believe so much in this thing of zero cost living. And by that, I'm not talking like, let's just give people money so they can have a basic level of life. No. I'm not talking about using capitalism to solve capitalism. That's like giving more fire to the fire. I'm talking about bringing technology together that reduces the cost of living, and therefore you have a basic level of life, and you have your needs fulfilled at a basic level always. You're the one who has to look after it, though. You're the one who has to maintain it. It's not looked after by governments or other businesses. It's you who has to maintain the place. And so from there, you have a place of freedom to make choices. And those that are creative will make choices that go on to create more things. And there will be no limit to what they could create if they all band together towards common initiatives.
One of the people that surprised me in a sense, but it's just because it's difficult to judge someone from, an online persona, was MrMichaelNye. He, in a sense, talks about kind of like this stuff, and he was quite a big advocate and very in line with some of the ideas we had. What were your thoughts on him and how what we're discussing could actually happen?
So I thought it was very interesting, some of the points that he brought up around. I mean, he mentioned for a moment spirituality, and I feel like that got a bit woo-foo in the room, and kind of interjected or added my opinion and said, yeah, spirituality is good. I think we're in spiritual poverty, and by that I mean people lack purpose or a reason why they do things on an individual level, and then collectively they band together around things that lack substance subsequently. For if you're to find something meaningful in a collective way, you must first find it as an individual. And I guess you could say that's a very judgmental view on the way people approach life these days. And I'm not saying that everyone is some purposeless existing person, corporate drone, yeah. Not everyone is a purposeless corporate drone. But we have to see in all of ourselves, maybe we can be a little bit superficial or even disrespectful to, our own self, basically. And when I say long-termism, one of the most long-term things you can do is invest in yourself, in growing your own person. If we're living here in this first world, I reckon our generation's gonna, on average, live at least 90 years to 100 years, and that's long term. And if you get those people, if you invest in yourself and grow yourself, that is a by default 100-year vision right there.
No, 100%. I'm a huge advocate for personal growth, personal investment. Personally, my definition of purpose is to invest in oneself, to develop oneself, to hone one's skills so that you can help others more effectively. What that requires is a huge amount of time and resources put into education and put into experimentation. You should minimize your expenditures so that you can use that money to invest in yourself and to experiment also. And what a lot of people suffer from in this current environment, this current ecosystem, is a lack of opportunity to taste experiences and taste what they could be good at, and try out new things and figure out what they like and what they don't like, and eventually find a particular problem in the world or something that they're not happy with or affects them personally, affects others personally, and contribute something towards improving that scenario.
What would you say your guys' goals are within the program? I think for me, something I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' initial thoughts on what we could do and what can actually happen.
Yeah, I'd like to connect with people who have experience in areas that I don't have in myself. But ideally, I wouldn't like to get lots of advice. I would like to get people who come and help us actually do things. And at the very least, I can learn from watching them help us and get involved.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tired of the wishy-washy, motivational, rah-rah nonsense. I'm very much into the operations, hands-on strategies, tactics, how to approach things, how to, the unsexy, boring stuff. That's what I'm personally into, and I hope to meet people who can dig deep on these aspects, figure out exactly how we can get knowledge that can turn into an application and hence improvement in the business itself. Likewise, from this program, I hope to learn immensely from people who have been there, done that, and have succeeded and failed, and not simply learn remotely like what I've been doing for a long time from people who I've never met before through books, podcasts, and other material online, which I'm a huge advocate.
Tessio, why are you making that transition from books and stuff to the real world? Because I think that, for me at least, with this, it's like there is an element of that, but in a slightly different form, which is actually using cryptography and the blockchain to do something real. But yeah, I'll let you answer.
It's not a transition, it's more of a missing puzzle piece, because the book industry right now is cluttered, and it's saturated with people who are not particularly intending to provide new value, new knowledge, and there's very much a lot of people who are trying to prove themselves in this world and validate their position in their industry through the production of books. Likewise, there's a lot of solopreneurs and consulting businesses and marketing businesses that use books as a lead generator as well, for example. So that they're not written with the same intention they were written 100 years ago. Maybe, I don't know, I wasn't here.
Yeah, and that's maybe an interesting topic to explore a little. So it's not just books that are saturated, and it's the same with experiences. It's the same with like movies, games, activities, and it's part of like some of the things that Sage is trying to solve is we've grown up in terms of like globalization. Anyone can come from anywhere. We can get anything from anywhere, and I feel like the infrastructure and the way we do things hasn't scaled up alongside it. What do you think can be done to improve that? I think right now there's a lot of focus on algorithms and things like that to find things for you, but for me, I've always been a bit cautious of that because at that point it's like synthetic and you don't know what you can't see, and you could be missing something great. In a kind of weird dystopian world, those things could be purposely being hid from you to keep you in some kind of box.
Yeah, I think earlier today there was a point made about technology and blockchain, and that point was made by me actually. So I'm going to say it right now. Man and technology have always worked together, maybe for good or bad reasons. But when you think about technology, it fundamentally is something which amplifies or magnifies what is already in the person. By that I mean, if you want to go from point A to B and creates a bike, then he invents a car, a plane, a ship, and all of these things are different technologies to fulfill the same yearning, which is to go from here to there. Or maybe you want to communicate with someone, and so we begin talking, then writing, then we invent phones so we can call each other across the world. And all of that is different technologies that we are using to amplify a fundamental human need. And if you look at blockchain as technology, I feel that that is something which will magnify or amplify our need to feel trust in our data, have security, to remove middlemen that shouldn't be involved with things that they just shouldn't be involved with in the first place. And that for me is like a fundamental shift, because we now have a technology that's going to amplify those good things in us. Now there's the other end of that, which would look at what are some of the negative aspects that blockchain could amplify in people. You could argue all the speculation that's gone on in cryptocurrency is an amplification of people's, I don't know what that's amplifying in them actually. Adam, what would you say?
I'd probably say it's amplifying their desire for freedom. Not even talking about any of the ideological elements of what blockchain and cryptocurrency can do. It's a brand new asset class. It's been around technically about 10 years now, although obviously when it began there weren't very many markets, trading, things like that. So it's in such an amazing position to continue to grow and build adoption. Obviously if you can ride the waves of that, then eventually there's going to be a huge redistribution of certain wealth and resources. So I think it's that everyone sees money as not exactly a means to an end, but as a way to have options, That's exactly what the crypto markets do.
Yeah, too right. I can definitely agree with that one. I guess that yearning, is it based on false hope in this case? Well, we'll soon see. Catch you all later. and B, sagacious.